Sokol, very nice to have you here today. Welcome to the Architecture in the Age of AI. And I'd like you to introduce yourself to my listeners and tell me a little bit about what you do and how you interact with architects. Back to you.
Thank you, Melanie, for the invite, and it's a pleasure to be in your program. My name is Sokol Huta. I'm a licensed architect in New York State. My professionally, I was focused in the design process and design world for the early stage of my professional life, and as I developed professionally, I focused more into zoning analysis, which is the law that governs the urban development of New York City. Now, I focused the effort in New York City because the zoning resolution is only applicable to the five boroughs of New York City. And the my background, and we can go into my background a little bit later, but my uh, the needs to develop a tool that could help me in the design process was to create a platform that can automate, can expedite the flipping through pages of 3,000 plus pages of zoning resolution.
Mhm.
So the whole process in many projects is very automatic. You have to go through sections, and then those sections reference different zoning sections, and so
Mhm.
on. So the process itself is very repetitive, and the majority of it, I would say about 95, 98% of the whole zoning analysis is easily automatable. So that's what we do. We have created this platform with a group of very talented programmers. Our CTO works for Google. He's a senior programmer, a very talented person. And we have another group of people who helps with a variety of needs that we have in this program, because programming wise is very complex. Even if the result is very simplified for the user's benefit, the whole machine in the background is very complex to program. I hope I answered your first question.
You did. So I come from your world as well, and I have my building codes behind me. There are six of them there because I have the first one that I put all my notes in when I was using it all the time, and then the update, and I kept the old one because you could refer back and forth, and then the new one. So I understand exactly what you mean about having to go through the minutia of the same thing over and over again. So I can see why an architect would be happy to use AI, and that's a good thing for you in particular. Um, but what's happening as far as the industry is concerned, which is why I started the podcast, is because in my regular job, my 9 to 5 job, I talk to architects about wood acoustics. And what comes up in the conversation is some understanding that AI is going to replace some of the things in their job, like yours is helping them do. Their fear about not being allowing them to be as creative as they would like. Whereas I'm of the mind, I have a 21-year-old son in software engineering, of the mind that there's some happy medium between the two. I can see some negatives, I do see lots of positives, but I think that we're going to need to find a way down the new path, because it's coming, whether we like it or not, to make it work for us. So if now put on your architect's hat for just a quick sec. If you were an architect using yours, my God, if it would help me not have to read through the building code to get at least a general idea, I'd be so happy. I'd be so happy, or at least point me to the clause and subclause and triple subclause that refers to what I'm looking for quickly. That would be fantastic. But my concern is that if we rely too much on the computer, just like when AutoCAD came in and I was a draftsman, you can see my drafting table behind me. I still lay out drawings there, still look at drawings on that if I can. But my son says that's old school. So anyway, we won't get into that right in the moment. But I think that if garbage goes in, garbage will come out. And that's my
Okay.
only concern from an AI point of view that I don't know how intelligent it can be without some supervision of somebody who actually knows what they're doing. Does that sound unreasonable? Does that sound like a white-haired person talking, or does that sound like something others have said to you in the past?
First of all, I also have a physical copy of the zoning
I'm
resolution.
sure you do.
Although the New York City zoning resolution is updated daily,
Yeah,
I still have a copy, an old copy that I don't use it as a reference anymore for actual work, but I have marked it all up
yeah,
and is very helpful to
yeah,
understand the structure, right?
yes,
The physicality of it comes with a lot of memory. It sticks into your mind.
exactly. So what
We
about
we
people being too reliant on something they don't actually understand? You and I both said we liked the structure of looking through and understanding how it went together. So now if AI is going to take all this away, all this minutia that we went crazy for and got gray hair for, what does that mean for the 20-year-olds that are now coming into the profession if they rely on it, is my question.
so the but our idea for the platform is that this is a design tool more
Okay?
than a replacement of the designer. Our services of our platform are a design tool for the architect, for the engineer to uh, go through the fog of the complexities of the law
Yeah.
and focus more onto the design. Because let's face it, zoning is about 100 years old, right?
Mhm.
But buildings have been built for thousands of years.
Centuries, yeah.
So it's a very novel instrument as a
Yep.
law itself. It's a very novel instrument if compared with the history of buildings
Yes.
and of architecture and of
Right.
urban development and development of our cities. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really important to put things into perspective and to see how did we get from 114 pages of zoning in the early 1900s to
Mm-hmm.
more than 3,000 pages of zoning today, right?
Yep.
And that tells a lot about the complexity of our world and our
Yep.
reality. So that complexity needs to be addressed somehow, and there is no better tool than technology to
Yep.
address that hurdle that created so much need for so many consultants and so many different people to address one single particular thing in the whole design and construction process.
Yep.
So now this is not to say that the automating of it or the using of AI to pierce through zoning is going to replace any of the professional. I really don't believe so. I do think
Okay.
strongly that what these new tools, including our tools, will do is going to be useful tools for the professionals to do faster and more productive work in the design aspect. So to focus more energy instead of splitting the timeline of the project by dedicating so much time into purely law
Yes.
analysis, zoning analysis.
Yep.
Instead, the architects and all the designers will have a lot more time to focus on what really impacts our life, our day-to-day life. They will have a lot more time to focus on the actual design of the buildings, right? And not only that, zoning is per se a design tool. It's not it's not a prescriptive law. It's very design oriented law because it allows in the same lot it allows many different options in terms of design.
Yeah.
It does not say this is your building, this shape, and that's it. It gives you different options in terms of side yards, rear yards,
Yep.
height models. You
Yep.
can go with sky exposure plane. You can go with height and set the quality housing
Mm-hmm.
height and setback regulations that now are called standard height regulations. So it offers a variety of ways. to design a building in a certain lot. And not only that, uh, uh, minor modifications. Let's say someone wants to have all the options possible to develop a property. These new tools, including again our platform, which is NYC Zoning AI, uh, will allow the user, will allow the professional to know immediately what type of options are allowed in that property, which is a great benefit to the end goal of our profession, which is design better buildings.
Right. So I'm going to tell you what one architect I was talking to said to me. He does a lot of work with large developers in Toronto. That's where I am, in the Toronto area. And they called him and said, we can save a whole bunch of money from you if we use this program, because it knows what the setbacks and everything are. And I'm not saying it doesn't have value, but this is what he said. We're sitting in the office. They paid us to be there, me and my partner. We're sitting at the table, and he says, like you, put in the address, and it went, you can do a building like this. And it basically populated a big rectangle. And the guy said, isn't that cool? Like, look at that. In like 5 minutes, we've designed the exterior of the building. And he was very offended and said to me in our conversation, I wouldn't want to live in that building. I said, okay, neither would I, but we have a design background. You're talking about somebody who's a developer who's going, what's the maximum size building I can put on this lot and what's the setback, blah, blah, blah. So he's happy that he's figured out roughly what he can put on that building without having to pay you to do a feasibility study. And he said, that's my problem. I don't like the idea of somebody taking that information and taking out a whole section of my scope of work. And I went, I understand that, but I also understand from the developer's point of view that they could look at multiple sites, like you say, put in the address and go, which one is the one that we want to work with?
Correct. And the way how I see these tools is that um, it's a really, really good opportunity for people to find the best opportunities for them,
Yeah,
to develop. And maybe some architects will think that that will limit the design options, but I strongly don't believe so, because I've met with a lot of developers who are yes, well versed into maximizing their profit, because that's
so they're good.
that's that's the real estate aspect of our cities, right?
Yeah,
But the majority of the developers that I know also understand, realize the value of the design, quality design, for their future tenants, because also design becomes quality of life, becomes a better users of their buildings, and better monetization of their development.
right. It's a
So
human thing.
that's
It's a
yes,
human.
that's the thing. These tools will allow a lot more time to focus on the actual design, to make sure that that architect, me included, we focus on what really matters. Because in the past, up until now, we have been using a lot of time in just trying to understand a phrase or another phrase, and we would spend hours, sometimes days, to figure out in what direction to go.
Yeah.
And in this way, cutting the time that we actually dedicate to the design of the buildings. And
So
the
let me
same
ask you a
for
question, Sokol, if you don't mind, when we're
sure,
talking about the
absolutely,
time it spends for you to be working on the draw, like the development of the design, because everything is RFPs, right? We're all working on RFPs, and people are proposing what they're going to spend to give the concept of whatever they're working on. So are you saying that the product that you're talking about, AI in general, would be at that preliminary stage and reduce the cost there, but that cost could be placed somewhere else? Is that what you
correct,
mean? Okay,
correct.
so the cost itself isn't going to change. How you allocate it within the proposal will likely change. Is that what you mean?
Correct, exactly. Because
Okay.
I don't believe because the cost for professional services, I don't think is going to change much, because we need we need the professional to make sure that our buildings are actually are gonna stay up for the next 30 years, 50 years,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
That are
Yep.
not going to have facade water leakage, or roof falling apart, or other issues. So there
Yep.
are a lot of design aspects of our buildings that matter so much. The whole zoning idea it became problematic, it became complex, and it became a new role for the designer, the zoning attorney. It's a new professional that came along because zoning became so complex. The zoning consultant, it's only for the past 50 years, maybe 60 years, it we didn't have zoning consultants before zoning itself, right? The architect would do everything. And I'm not saying we will go back to whatever times there were before zoning. I'm not suggesting that, but I do believe that the complexities of today's design will need that time to be focused on more quality of the buildings instead of just massing, right? Up until now, we spent a lot of time in figuring out the massing, and we had a lot less time to focus on the actual design aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think zoning became so complicated because it became so litigious,
Well, of course,
right?
and it's not only zoning; it's many
Everything.
aspects of the construction industry
Yeah.
or of our society and as a
In
in
general.
general. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question now. Are you dealing with the more senior people in each firm, or are you dealing with every level of architect within a firm?
That's a very good question. I love it. So we deal a lot with from students who want to know what zoning is, to developers who really know zoning because they have an extensive experience
Experience? Yep.
in the field,
Yep.
or to architects who deal on a day-to-day basis with zoning. So the beauty of our platform is it allows all the different levels of understanding of zoning to know a little bit more. So if you're a student, you learn by looking about reading our blog and learning about our tool. If you're an architect, you will see all the zoning references in the zoning analysis that we generate. There are all the zoning references with explanations and with recommendations of
Okay.
how those massings were generated. And if you're a
Okay.
developer, you will be able to upload a list of properties that you want to know which one is worth, and you get immediate results. And if
Okay.
you're a family, if you are a building owner, or if you have a house and you're looking to sell, you would rather want to know the value of your property. You'd rather want to know if in that property, if you're selling only the house or one or two family, or if you're selling something where you can build 50 dwelling units, right? It really matters. Zoning is impacting everybody's life every day. And if you are an owner of a property, you really should pay attention to what you own. Because most people that I know that are not architects or not in the development world, they bought houses in the decades ago. They think today that they're selling a one family and they're or two family, and they compare the value of their property with other one family or two family units, but they don't know. In most cases, they don't know that they're sitting on a gold mine, because they're not actually selling one family or two family. They're selling a development site for 50, 60 families.
Wow. Never thought of it like that. Are you only proposing that in the United States, or is this something that could be used? You're only in the New York area.
So for now, the logic is this: of all zoning in the United States, the zoning resolution in New York City is the
Most
highest
com
complexity.
Yeah.
So once we have resolved every aspect of this very complex law, then all the regulations and rules for the other municipalities or the other urban areas will be basically trimming down whatever complexities we've built for New York City.
Okay.
So
So you
for
be
now we're
different.
focusing
Yeah, you
for now
should.
we're focusing on the five boroughs because
Yeah,
it's really complex.
complicated. Yeah.
And once we're done with New York City, it's going to be very easy to
Move
expand to
along.
other cities. Yep.
Okay, so I have a question for you that really doesn't have anything to do with zoning, or it may, I'm not sure. In Canada, we have a national building code. There's a national regulation that every province kind of, whoops, follows. Whoops, we just had a power outage. So if I'm sitting in the dark now, you'll know why. We just had a power outage, but I have a US UPS, so we might be okay for a while. Anyway, we have a national building uh, code, and then each province handles it out.
Losing you.
Are you there? Are you there? Okay, reconnected.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, I'm
let's
here.
start again.
Can you hear me?
So we have a
Yes.
national building code that goes across the country, and
Hmm.
every province underneath it has to follow that and then adjust it to their particular environment, whatever. Is it like that in the United States as well, or is it something completely different?
So in the United States, the building code goes by. So the first stage is the International Building Code, but then every state has to adapt their own building codes, and
Okay,
every municipality either goes by the state's code or by the city's code. In the case
okay,
of New York City, we have a New York City building code that of, is based on the International Building Code, but it's also very specific and with a lot more regulations related to again to the very complex urban development in New York City, which is,
so when
you
when
know,
you say international building code,
mhm.
there, I didn't even know there was an international one. I thought there was a national building code for each country. There's an
Yeah, no,
international
there
building
is
code.
also an International Building Code. Yeah,
Okay, cool. See, you learn something new every day.
yes, the
So, how do you
IBC.
think IVC? Okay, I'll look that up because now you got me interested, and I'll go down that rabbit hole. Uh, so, how will your business is going to grow as more and more people adopt this AI um, interaction for
Hmm.
a zoning? So that's good.
Hmm.
Do you think it will change the employment levels of architectural firms in general, or maybe shift it a little bit? I'm trying to understand how what you do affects the actual architectural firm itself.
I really don't think it's going to have that great of an impact in terms of employment,
Okay.
because again, uh, the whole building industry is in desperate need of technology, of having
Mhm.
more tools to for us to be able to do a better design, a more quality design that will be able to stay up and not having issues for the next decades, right?
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
I truly don't believe it's going to be that impactful in terms of employment. But what is going to be impactful on is the quality of the output. We will have better buildings in the near future and in the long term.
So you're looking for your clients how, if you don't mind me asking? Are they finding you or are you looking for them?
Well, it's so far it's a very word of mouth,
Oh, good.
reaching out through forums, through podcasts like yours, through events that we organize to showcase the potential of the platform and the help that the
Yeah.
platform gives to architects, to developers, and to homeowners. And
Yeah.
it's a very organic development so far. It's not been we haven't gone too crazy with ads. It's
Okay.
very
No, I didn't mean
organic.
that.
It's
I
very
just meant
word of mouth,
which is
and
fantastic. That's like
and
somebody's opened the door for you already.
correct, correct. And in New York City, they say is the biggest small town on earth because especially in the construction industry, everybody knows everybody. So it's really easy. If the product works, everybody's gonna know about it.
Exactly. I say this to people all the time. If you have a good reputation in our industry in Toronto, everybody knows about you. And if you don't, everybody knows about you. So it's pretty much the same thing. So, you kind
That's
of have
correct.
to play the cards the way they should be played and
Of
not
course.
build for today's answer, but build for the future. And then you're
Exactly.
in good shape. So this is really interesting. So the lights came back on, so that's a good thing. I have a note here. I made notes to myself, so I'm just going to read one for you. So, would you consider the zoning part and more administrative than design? Obviously, that's an answer. Do you agree that it's more of an administrative thing than a design thing, and it's because that's the automation of it?
So there is I always say that not all zoning is automatable.
Okay,
And to dig a little bit deeper is that the Department of Buildings in New York City doesn't see zoning as one size fits all, right? Meaning that if your neighbor was allowed to have XYZ parameters in their massing or in their development, doesn't
right.
necessarily mean that you are entitled to the same type of development because it's
Yeah,
very site by site approach is not by precedence or it's not by allowing the whole city to move in one direction just because there is one property developed in a certain way. So
yeah,
each one of the lots is basically an island in the law that is a zoning resolution. Now, this doesn't mean that the Department of Buildings will reinterpret zoning every time they go from one lot to the other, but it will follow historical interpretations of zoning, which do not necessarily mean that they will be static. As the city
yeah,
evolves, also the interpretation of zoning evolves. Besides the zoning law, the zoning itself will change. Like last 2 years ago, on December 5th, 2024, there was a major zoning change in New York City that affected pretty much the whole structure of zoning that was necessary for the housing crisis that we're having today. It's really important that
yeah,
everybody that is in our design world understands that zoning is not a static element. So
yeah,
I do believe that the majority of zoning can be automated, but there is a small percentage of the entire law that is the interpretability or interpretation of certain specific, very critical aspects of zoning that will make a big deal of a difference between today and tomorrow. Even if your neighbor built a certain building 5 years ago, it doesn't mean that today you are
it's
supposed to
good.
do the same. Right.
Yeah,
So it
right.
is in certain ways a design tool also beyond being a law. Besides being a law, it is a design tool, I believe.
Oh, okay, so the architect, so when you're working on a project, there's project leads,
Hmm.
and then there's architects that are working on it, and there's techs that are underneath them, and then there's administrative. Who do you think of those four people that are in four levels of involvement in the project would be the right people to look at the zoning part of it with something like your product?
Well, this would certainly be for zoning leads or for design
Hmm.
leads because they
Okay.
come with the highest knowledge and background of the complexities of zoning,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
also the less experienced professionals will be able to use it because the whole results or the whole product, the analysis that the platform generates is going to walk through every single step of how that zoning
Or
analysis was generated, right?
So it's going to kind of be like a reference set of documents for everybody working on the project. Like when I'm assuming it generates something, says this is what it should be doing, this is what you
Exactly.
can and cannot do, and everybody should be kind of going, yes, I can do that, no, I can't do that, and use it as a reference throughout the project. Am I understanding that correctly?
So, in addition to what you just said, is the result is going to be of different layers, right? So there is a layer of this is the as of right, what you can have as of right, which means that 99% you'll be 99% sure that the DOB will approve because the last word is of the Department of Buildings, right? They are the ones who approve
Yeah.
a zoning analysis and the project. So
Yeah,
uh,
they're the ones
they're
that are
the
going to
last.
say,
Exactly.
yeah,
So there is that portion of the result. And then
okay,
the other portion of the result is, okay, in addition to what you just received, you will be able to to identify this issue, or this other issue by reading at recommendations and by being guided towards different options. Let's say somebody wants to do street wall modifications. They want to consider a different type of street wall design, right? So the street wall
yeah,
design is very design oriented. Zoning stops where design of the facade starts, right? Because it depends on if you want to go to 70% of the facade to go to the street line and other factors that are more detail oriented. So that cannot be automatically generated. That needs to come through the considerations of the different phases of the design, right? So this
okay,
is not,
yeah,
that's why I said it's not a finished product. It's a tool so that it can
forward.
guide your design through the process. Correct. And the same goes
So,
for deductions, zoning floor area, or parking and other aspects of the massing.
so this would be good at the concept stage as well. So
Absolutely.
you start with it at concept and then you keep working with it throughout the project to refine the details and get down
Absolutely.
to that I'm not going to have a problem when I apply for building permit part of the drawing, right?
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So
Yes.
then smaller firms should be able to compete better as well.
Absolutely. That's the biggest that's one of the biggest things that it allows it allows to really be competitive in terms of because many architects that we know are kind of forced to provide even pro bono services just with the hope of getting a project in the future,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
uh,
exactly.
those pro bono services are never pro bono because you still have to spend the time of yourself of your staff to be able to do that pro bono service. So
Yeah.
this kind of tool really helps that type of professional to really be able to get projects without
Yeah.
having to bleed their businesses.
Yeah, that I can see that really being helpful in the concept stage when you're going for that first RFP, that you come up with your concept and you know you're pretty close to what it's going to be. You may refine it later, but you're going to
Correct?
win the person because they fall in love with your rendering. And you go, this
Correct?
is what we
Correct?
think the building should be. And you've got a 27-foot setback here and a 13 on that, whatever. It's already
Correct.
kind of there. And that, I agree with you. I think that's a great idea. So let me ask you now about somebody said this to me, and I'm going to use their words: AI hallucinations and false information. And I went, okay, that's a new one. And that's what I said to you before about garbage in, garbage out. So, how do you protect yourself and others from any potential hallucination? Was his word.
So that's a really critical thing
Mm,
in our programming
mm-hmm.
because our platform is called NYC Zoning AI because it uses AI technology to generate results and also all the programming side of it, of course. But the most critical aspects of the how results are generated are through very careful programming of the results of the structure. So the core structure of it is not does not leave room for hallucinations or for completely AI generated results, because
Okay, so
that's the risk is that, exactly like you said, in the physical world you cannot allow hallucinations, because that would be really risky in terms of not only in terms of services but also in terms of consequences for design, right? So we pay a lot of attention on having AI only implemented for certain things of the process, not
okay,
the entire process.
entire thing. Okay. Um, so let me just see here. One of the other questions. So he called it gray work. Gray work. He's referring to the time and resources lost using workarounds or ad hoc solutions when the technology won't work. So what you're saying, what you are providing, is all that gray work basically disappearing. It should disappear on the zoning side of it, not the whole project, on the zoning part of it, because you've streamlined it for them. So if you were
That's exactly the
streamlining,
case.
exactly.
Correct.
Okay. So there won't be any contractual or legal blind spots because you've taken care of that already, right? You've already
Well,
looked at,
Well, no, that's the thing. The complete and finalized zoning design, zoning analysis is very specific to the site, and it entails a list of design decisions, right? Again, zoning is not a finished a box or a
yeah,
finished model.
yeah,
It really depends on your design decisions. So the finished product of our platform is it cuts off 95% of the process of getting a zoning analysis, but not the entire zoning analysis,
detail.
because there are not the details, because there are what does the your client want, right? Exactly. How, what type of facade do they want? What type of massing do they want? It has a lot of pulls and strings that that shape the final zoning analysis. We provide all those tools. So in the same way, for example, the in New York City there is a zoning thing that allows zoning floor area deductions. Now, zoning floor area deductions are very design oriented items, because it depends on if you're having parking, if you're lowering the building to have a cellar, if you're digging to have a cellar, or if you're lowering the first floor to have a basement that then becomes a cellar, or if you're electrifying the building, if you're only using, if you're not using gas. So there are a lot of items that will ultimately impact your final product. So those things we cannot know. That's not possible to automate. It's all decision based.
Yeah. No, I see you. Um, I'm trying to, I have some other questions here, but I'm just trying to see if, do you think when people are using AI, that implementation, both in time and the cost of the program or whatever, is holding anybody back?
In what sense?
Well, it costs money, right, to buy into the program. And I'm not saying that just you, any program, but it's the time and labor on the back end to learn it, to understand how to use it, that kind of stuff. Is that, do you find
No,
any there
I
resistance
understand.
that way?
I understand. The so the one of the biggest challenges that we've had in the designing of our platform was to create a tool that is very easily understandable to use. Because
Okay.
if we create a very complex tool to use, then we're saving people time to get the zoning analysis, but then we're having them spend a lot more time to learn how to use that.
Yeah.
So absolutely, that's a very, very important and critical aspect of our platform that we really have spent months and months of research in determining and finding, and we constantly ask customers on how, in what way is the interface is used or is understood from the user's perspective. Sometimes we give people access, or they will get a subscription, they will use it, and then they will ask us questions. So based on their questions, that's the perfect feedback for us to understand, okay, maybe this is not as straightforward as we thought it was.
It
So
was,
maybe
yeah.
we have to do it in a different way. So
Yeah.
yes, that's a very critical thing of our platform that we need to, and we're constantly, every day, even earlier today, I got some feedback from new users that wanted a different type of function in the platform that we're already working on.
Okay, so it's not holding them back from buying it. They understand they're going to put time
Absolutely.
and a little bit of effort to understand how to use it. Like when I got my drafting board at my office was taken away from me and said, "You're going to learn how to use AutoCAD."
Right.
I was like, "Okay." And they said, "Because if we leave you their board, you're comfortable on your board, you'll use your board." So we took your board right away from you. So now I'm comfortable with everything digital. That's fine. And and that's why I'm saying I'm just wondering if anybody is resisting because I wasn't asked. I was sort of told you're going to learn this way, and we've invested in it. Here you go. So that's why I'm asking if you're finding any resistance to people saying, you know what, we will spend the money to do this.
A
Not
lot,
really.
a lot less resistance than AutoCAD, because AutoCAD is a very
Very
complex
expensive. Yeah,
tool. Even when
yeah,
I started using it, is it has a lot of commands, it has a
right.
lot of
Geez.
layers of information.
Yeah,
Uh, our platform is really, really, it
quite
shouldn't
simple.
take more than 4 minutes and 50 seconds. It's really where to click and how to generate the results and
There you
where to
go.
enter
Wow.
an address. Yeah,
Wow. That's amazing. So where do you
yeah.
think that technology is going to be in 5, 10 years, maybe?
So my hope, I really, really hope that our platform will be able to have a very solid 95% of the zoning massing covered solidly. And the hope is that all the background quality control that we're doing constantly will be minimized and will be completely self-maintaining, or developing some sort of self-improvement. Although that's a notion that is a little bit overused these days, the self-improvement aspect of AI.
Yeah.
But I really hope that the tool itself will lead to our profession to be to go to the next stage, which is to to remove all the complexities that are just paper based and they are not really affecting the cities, right?
True, but what's going to happen to all those employees that get to look at all your plans and argue with you about what your interpretation of the zoning plans were?
That's exactly it. So the attention and the effort of the professional world needs to be focused in how to, let's say there is a regulation in zoning that is really affecting the during my years with the Department of Buildings, I witnessed a few changes that were very, very important, because only through the we would get many requests about the same zoning section. We would get zoning determinations about the same zoning section repeatedly from the
Yeah,
industry.
yeah.
So we learned that maybe the whole city, the whole industry needs to address this zoning section that in this way, because current needs of our contemporary city are in desperate need to address this particular issue. So all the effort, I hope that in 5 years will be focused in really productive things and not in looking at the same polling section over and over and over for hours. As as a community, we have a community of designers that up until yesterday, we were all doing the same. We were all going through the zoning book. We were all going through, okay, go to this section and then to this section. We're hopping from one section to the other in the zoning book. That's that's a really waste of energy,
Yeah.
and resources for the
Yeah.
whole industry. So our city pays the consequences by not having enough time to focus on something really important.
I understand that, but you and I have both stood in front of building inspectors at the building department going over drawings. And if it's so easy, sorry, not easy, let's say clearer on interpretation by anybody, what are those inspectors going to do? Because
Well,
they're always looking for the error, right? And you can spend an hour, 2 hours standing in front of them going over your drawing. When I did that, I don't do that anymore, but you would stand there and go over everything with them, make sure everything was there, or else they'd push you to the side and say, come back in 2 weeks or whatever. What are they going to do if it's all there already? You know what I mean?
what they're going to do is that in the past, many decades ago, I've learned from my peers that it would take a lot more to get a building approval. Today,
Oh,
you get it in a lot less time than 10, 15 years ago. One, because the examiners are more prepared. Two, because the whole system is working better. It's more expedited. Things are done online. People are not staying with a number on their hand to wait for their turn. Um, uh, uh, there are a lot of benefits that come from that, and people and the examiners and the whole regulatory world is focusing their energies on how, for example, to enforce the energy building code, the energy code that is going to affect how, all the consumption in our cities.
yeah,
So that's a lot of improvement compared to 20 years ago, when the examiners would take a lot more time to review your plans that were printed. So there are not less examiners than before. Before, the Department of Buildings, I think it had, don't take my word for it, but I think that it had a few hundred examiners. Now
yeah.
it has 1,500 employees. So
Oh,
uh, why more employees? Because the quality of the design and the whole overall process became better, and everybody's looking for the real challenging aspects of the design, right? How to do the construction safer, how to do the buildings more efficient, right?
mhm.
So there
Yeah,
are a lot of other layers of the regulatory process that can be improved and need to be improved, right? So
yeah,
I know a lot of other companies, startups like ours, are working on the other aspects of the regulatory path, and that's
yeah,
very exciting because it's just going to allow the regulatory world to focus on things that truly directly affect the inhabitants of the town or the city
yeah.
have a better quality of life.
Well, that's good. That's good. So it's fear that's keeping people back more than understanding that it, as I said this to somebody and I liked it, so I'm going to use it with you, that AI is going to be the new pencil in the architect's hand. It's not taking the architect's
That's
hands away, it's the
that's
pencil in the
exactly
architect's hand.
that's exactly what I believe in. Yep.
Yeah. Perfect. Is there anything you'd
It's
like to
another
wrap up
tool.
with? Yes, exactly. Is there anything you'd like to wrap up with, Sokol?
I would like to really thank you, Melanie. It's been a really good pleasure to be part of this podcast.
My pleasure.
I really want to share with everybody that I do believe that AI is not only going to be another tool in the hands of the design professional, but is going to be the tool that will allow the design professional to really focus all the energy and to create better buildings. That's really important.
I think so too. And I think just like when AutoCAD came out, people were afraid it was going to take away jobs. I don't see smaller firms.
It
So,
created more jobs.
so it's like, okay. Anyway, I really appreciate your time, Sokol. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
I will stop the recording now and then we can talk privately for a second.